Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Vice Project Doom for the NES, a Ninja Gaiden-like with some twists. So this game is actually a side-scrolling action platformer, very fast-paced like Ninja Gaiden, very similar setup with the health bars and things like that, and birds and just enemies running out from all sides of the screen. But it also has a couple of other modes to mix things up. It's got top-down shoot-'em-up modes, which you actually start off on, and then it's also got first-person sort of on-rails style shooter levels, which is really cool as well. So while Ninja Gaiden basically does the same thing for the whole game, Vice Project Doom does a little bit more, and it's kind of neat. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Ninja Gaiden games, but it's pretty close. It's a really, really solid game, and if you're a fan of the Ninja Gaiden series, I highly recommend checking out this game. So this is a game I actually did a Let's Play of several years ago when I was still doing composite with all my NES. Now that we're on the AVS, we're going to go ahead and re-record it like I've been doing with a lot of my NES playthroughs. But also, like my Ninja Gaiden playthroughs recently, we're going to be putting a spin on things. We're going to be doing this sword only, just like with my Ninja Gaiden runs. Now, we can't actually do a 100% sword run. For one, 2 of the stages are top-down shooters, 2 of the stages are first-person on-rails sections, and then the final boss, I haven't been able to find a way to kill him with just the sword. You pretty much have to trade hits, and the boss does so much damage, it's just impossible to kill him with just the sword. So, what we're going to do is run through all the side-scrolling stages with just the sword, play the shoot 'em up stages normally, play the first person sections normally, and then on the final boss we'll switch over to our grenade power up, which is pretty much required to kill the boss and defeat him the normal way so you guys can see the ending and whatnot. So yeah, it should be a fun run. I did practice this a little bit on Twitch. I've actually probably did 5 or 6 runs. I am a little tired today, however, though, so my performance might not be great, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll just kind of wing it and see what happens here. So before we jump into the game and start this run, as usual, I'd like to give a big shout out to my current Patreon backers. So those folks are gonna flash by the screen. Thank you guys for your continued patronage. Likewise with all the recent live streams, super chatters, and channel members. So thank you guys as well for supporting my show here. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that we're gonna be skimming through all the stories and stuff like that. So if you're looking for like the plot and things like that, that's not this video. You probably want to go check out a full-on long play or something like that. But this video is mainly just to show you how to get through the game and talk about it as I go. So with that, let's go ahead and hit that start button and jump right into it. And like I said, you pretty much start off on a top-down shoot-'em-up section. And you'll notice that enemies in this game have a tendency of dropping coins. If you get 100 coins, you will actually get an extra life. And what I'd really like to do here is get myself a 1 credit clear. That would be really cool. Especially for a challenge run like this. Now, you do get continues in this game, so if you're playing this for the first time, you know, you don't have to worry. You don't have to get a 1 credit clear. You can continue all you want, and it's not too bad. So by pressing A here, you can actually speed up. You'll notice that there are 3 speed settings on the bottom of the screen, so we're on speed 3 right now. Speed 2 I find to be the most comfortable on these stages. The walls on this are a little odd as well. You'll find that you can't get that close to the walls, otherwise you'll actually just smack into them before you actually even touch them. Fortunately, this first shoot-'em-up section is actually pretty easy. It's not really too tough to deal with. Anybody should be able to get through this. Enemies don't do a lot of damage on that section, and you know, you can mow down the boss's health very, very quickly. So here we go. We've got our side-scrolling action section, which actually makes up about 90% of the game. Now, this first level is actually kind of interesting. You'll notice that there are some cracks on the floor here. You don't want to touch those because the platform will lower, and if you're dead center on that platform, what happens is there's basically no way to jump off of it. So just avoid those completely on this stage. And this part, you just want to keep running to the right here, nothing too special. The platforms behind you just constantly fall, and then we just climb down this ladder here. You can also fall down these, and then there's another falling platform right there. I just skip it and take the top way. I find it's the easiest way to go. And we're going to go ahead and just jump over here like so. Now, you can actually duck in this game, and one thing I found out that's really cool, that for some reason I didn't know this in the past, but you can actually duck and run at the same time. If you just basically hold down forward in either direction, you will duck and run. It's really cool. It's actually quite handy as you go through the game. There's going to be a lot of enemies that shoot high, and you can duck under them. But instead of having to stop and attack, you can basically continue to run forward as you take them on like that. Like that guy, I didn't have to just stop like I would in Ninja Gaiden. I was able to duck and continue running at the same time. So this guy basically throws platforms at you, and we're gonna go ahead and probably just tank a few hits. Just like so. After 3 or so projectiles that he throws at you, he actually jumps across the screen. So you have to watch out for that if you're doing this sword only. So a lot of these bosses are a little bit easier. I think they're meant to be taken a little bit slower because you do have a gun power-up that you can use. Basically shoots bullets across the screen. It doesn't go all the way across the screen, so it's not the most useful weapon in the game. The more useful weapon is the grenade. So if you look in the sort of the bottom center portion of the screen, you'll notice there's a little gun icon, and then there's a little grenade icon as well. And you know, what's cool about doing this sword only is those weapons are limited in ammunition, and by doing this sword only, you actually get to stash those up for the first-person stages. So the first-person stages share ammo with the normal side-scrolling stages. So what happens on the first-person stages, if you use your ammo on the side-scrolling stages, you will actually end up running out of ammo on the first-person sections. So now we don't have to worry about running out of ammo. So the first-person areas of this game are basically gimmies. They're just really, really easy because, I mean, they're normally really easy to begin with. But they're even easier now because we know we'll pretty much never run out of ammo unless we're just completely sloppy with our ammo. One thing that's kind of cool is enemies right before bosses. Also, oh yeah, this might glitch out, by the way. Oh, it's not glitching. Great. I meant to make a disclaimer before doing this. This boss fight has a tendency of glitching out on my AVS like crazy. And for him, you can just sit right in front of him, and his projectiles will go right over your head as long as you're close enough. So really easy strategy on that guy. But yeah, when I was practicing this on Twitch, that background would glitch out like crazy. It's one of the problems with my retro USB AVS console. It has a tendency of doing things like that for certain games, which is a reason I haven't done, say, games like Shatterhand yet. It still has issues with Shatterhand, even though we're on the latest firmware. Hopefully the firmware gets updated and those things get sorted out as time goes on. Occasionally Vice Project Doom can have issues, but it's mainly in that one boss fight, and that's it. Yeah, since you know, we'll basically have all of our ammunition, since we're not using our guns or our grenades, we'll be able to get through these sections quite easily. So you'll notice that my gun ammo is going down every time I fire with the B button, and using the A button uses up my grenades. So the grenades have a bigger explosion, naturally, as you would expect from grenades. And you'll notice that you can also pick up these little sort of bottles, and the bottles will actually give you a couple of hit points back, which is nice. So it's good to try to grab those in the normal stages themselves. And these bonus stages, I'm going to call these bonus stages, because they really are like bonus stages. They're not really that hard. Like, that guy just dropped a piece of meat. Meat gives you a lot of health back. So if you see meat, you really want to get it. And a lot of enemies drop meat in this game. So these levels are pretty much just gimmies. They're not really difficult to deal with. It's the side-scrolling stages that really give you the trouble and really require you to be on point. This game really requires you to be on point. I mean, just like Ninja Gaiden, but I think in some ways, if you're trying to do this damage list, it requires you to be even more on point than Ninja Gaiden. So this game will have birds coming at you, it'll have these blue ninjas coming at you, it'll have the sort of maroon ninjas, which shoot these three-way projectiles, which are really aggravating to deal with. And the other thing about your sword in this game is that once you've used it and it goes back in your pocket, it's gone. Like, the hitbox is not lingering at all. So you've got to be really, really accurate with your sword swipe in this game. It comes out faster than in Ninja Gaiden, and, well, I wouldn't say it's faster, but it doesn't linger as long as the sword in Ninja Gaiden 1 does. So it's something you've got to be really careful about in this game. We're going to go ahead and just try to take our time here, kill these birds, and we're actually getting close to our first extra life, so 5 more coins will give us a 1-up. But what I was actually saying before we got to that boss fight is that a lot of bosses in this game, or a lot of boss fights, an enemy right before the boss will actually drop health. They'll have a tendency of dropping health. Now, that one enemy prior to the previous boss didn't drop health, but he did drop a power-up. So, but typically in this game, right before you get to a boss, enemies will drop health refills, which is quite nice. So it's important that if you're rushing into a boss fight, that you make sure you kill all the enemies right before the boss room, so you can get to the boss with full health. Some bosses really want you to have, full health. Some bosses are pretty tough in this game if you don't know the patterns, and they can be stressful even when you've got, a full health bar. So, sort of taking our time here on some parts. So, very much like Ninja Gaiden, I like to try to rush through this game, but it's not really recommended, to be honest with you. It's definitely the kind of game you want to take your time at. I like to play it relatively fast just because I'm pretty familiar with the game, but if you're playing this for the first time, it's probably good to take things relatively slow. And make sure you're getting your timing down with your sword swipes. But one thing that's great about the sword swipes, though, is notice that the sword actually starts from behind you, and it basically swerves over your head, and that will actually hurt enemies. So when enemies come down right on top of your head, and this is one of those bosses that actually uses that, the vertical part will actually, hurt enemies. And for this boss right here, you just want to stop every now and then, and he'll shoot 3 projectiles like so. And then watch out for the rocket T-fires, and that's it. It's actually a pretty easy boss fight when you've got the pattern down. Most bosses in this game are very, very patternistic. Like, you know the pattern, you should be able to control the boss like no other. So now there are a lot of pits on this level, and a lot of this game has a lot of pits, just like Ninja Gaiden. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this is a Ninja Gaiden-like. Like, it's very much like Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden clearly was influential on this game. I mean, I can't think of any other game that this compares to outside of Ninja Gaiden. I mean, there's some other platformers, action platforms on the NES, like Batman by Sunsoft and whatnot. But this absolutely feels like Ninja Gaiden. The enemies are just constantly coming out like in Ninja Gaiden. They're very fast. So it's a very precision-oriented game like Ninja Gaiden as well. So lots of bouncing enemies, just like Ninja Gaiden. The big difference between this and Gaiden is that Ninja Gaiden has lots of different sub-weapons, and Ninja Gaiden's gameplay revolves much more around the sub-weapon usage. Whereas this, you have 2 sub-weapons, but they're not great for every situation. Like, the sub-weapons in Ninja Gaiden are generally really good anywhere in the game. Now, there are obviously some sub-weapons that are a little bit better than others, especially in the first Ninja Gaiden, with, say, the Spin Slash or the Hurricane Slash. In this game, you don't really have that. It's just your sword, and then it's your gun, which doesn't go all the way across the screen. It does minimal damage. And then it's also, and there we go, meat. And then your grenade is really good, but it's slow, so it's not something you're going to constantly be using, and you don't want to run out of ammo for when you need it. So, alright, so for this guy right here, what we're going to do is just attack him like this, and we're going to try to attack his missiles with the top of our sword. Kind of like so. And there we go. Decent fight. Not great, I took a few hits, but the thing about that boss fight, and the thing about using the vertical edge of your sword that goes over your head, is that it can be difficult to time that to actually connect with enemies, especially boss objects like rockets or grenades or things like that. So, very difficult to deal with. So bosses like that, I have a tendency of taking hits. Now, something to keep in mind when you're playing this game, your sword does go downwards a little bit. So whereas in Ninja Gaiden, your sword stays sort of on the upper half of your torso, this sword will actually go down towards your feet. So you can actually attack enemies that are slightly below you if you time it just right. So, when you get the hang of this sword, it can be really flexible. So you can sort of jump down on enemies and smack them to the ground. Now that was actually really lucky. What happens there a lot is I jump and I get hit by that projectile, and then I fall backwards into the pit between the trains, between the carts. So we're gonna go ahead and try to take our time here. This level can actually be quite tricky because of, you know, the very erratic enemies. It gets very overwhelming. You've got these rats that just bounce around like crazy. In Ninja Gaiden, you have enemies that do that, but they have a tendency of waiting until you get close to them to bounce. But in this game, they're just bouncing right from the get-go, and it can be very, very overwhelming. So again, let's just take our time here, and same with this part. This is a part I've actually died at a lot, so just take your time on this part, otherwise you can end up dying very, very quickly. And same with this part, just take your time. Actually, we've got a pretty good run going here so far. I'm actually kind of surprised being how tired I am today. But I have done a lot of practice rounds on this, so, you know, I guess we're good here. So, yeah, this level in particular can be very tricky to deal with. And there's some health, and now boss fight. So this boss actually isn't too bad. He basically does this spread shot down, then shoots one big beam across the screen. And then you just want to wait, jump, attack, wait here, jump, jump again, attack. Just rinse and repeat like this. You only get, you know, 2, 3, maybe 4 hits on him each time. Sometimes what you can do is you can try to get a hit as he, you know, swings down like that. Just like so. So that was a good boss fight. And this level can be quite tricky as well. This is definitely one of the harder levels in the game. Now these guys are introduced. These guys, they throw these sort of discus-like objects down at you. Now what's actually kind of interesting about these discus objects is that you can actually smack them with the top of your sword, but the timing on it is very tricky. It's not something I really recommend doing. I would recommend just jumping, not jumping, but just going straight through or going straight under like that. Don't bother attacking those unless it absolutely just lands right on top of your head, which does happen. Ooh, that was close. One thing that's nice about the knockback in this game is you do actually regain air control, you know, before you land on the ground. So, you know, if it looks like you're going to get knocked into a pit, you know, try to hold in the opposite direction. Try to hold the direction that is nearest to a platform, so you can try to aim yourself back to a platform. See, this actually reminds me a lot of a mixture between Batman and Ninja Gaiden, because Batman has a lot of sections where it's, you know, electrical beams and things like that. This game has that, but it also has, you know, the fast-paced enemies that require you to be just super, super precise with your attacks and whatnot. And there we go, we're going to come down this way. And I'm going to try to... Nah, it's not going to work. We'll just come down here. So there's some meat. And then we're going to have ourselves another boss fight here in just a minute. And there we go, boss fight. This guy's not too bad either. We're going to let him do his spread shot, and then do this shot. And then another spread shot. And you can just sit right underneath him after he does his 3-way spread shot. Just like so. Bam, just like that. So many bosses in this game are just very, very patternistic. Like, they might give you trouble the first time you play them, but in reality, they're not that difficult to deal with once you know the patterns. I'd say the levels themselves are definitely much more difficult overall. Those are the parts that are going to be much more problematic for you, most likely. And this part, I basically have to tank. It's really annoying. But this is actually where I figured out that you can actually smack the discus, because this part is really difficult to deal with without doing that. We're at 75 coins right now, so we're actually getting close to, relatively close to another extra life. Something to keep in mind when you're playing this game is, you know, we do go to another shoot 'em up stage. So if you're getting close to another extra life and you're on your last life, but you know, you're trying to 1-credit clear the game, just remember that you will get more coins, especially on the shoot 'em up stages. You get a lot of coins on those stages. And these these blobs of water, they do hurt you, unfortunately. Now, I am playing a little sloppy here, so actually we just got a tiny little bit of health back, which is good. I think that one monkey I assume it's a monkey, dropped a bottle, which is good. So the bottle gives us a couple of hit points back. Nothing crazy, but it's something. Ooh, meat. Very good. Okay, so we're good. We're good for the rest of this. There's going to be some meat right before this boss fight as well, which will be quite nice. But yeah, we're actually getting close to the end of the game already. So there's going to be another vertical section, shoot 'em up section, then there's going to be another on-rails shooter section, and then we'll pretty much be at the end of the game. Now the final boss itself shouldn't be a big deal either. What's interesting about the final boss is he has two forms, and the first form is very, very controllable. I was actually really surprised at how controllable that boss fight is. One of those new things I figured out doing this Let's Play, or practicing for this Let's Play, compared to my first Let's Play many years ago. And there's the meat. You don't want to kill that guy before you fall down, otherwise the meat will disappear. And this guy does a spread shot downwards like that, and then he unleashes these little blobs, and you can attack the blobs. And we're doing a bad job of attacking the blobs. Good. Still got it, though. As long as I don't die. We've got 3 lives. We're going to be working towards our next life here soon. And we're back to the shoot 'em up stuff. So, the good thing about the shoot 'em up sections is that, you know, they're not too difficult to deal with. And, you know, you can get a lot of coins. So if you're working towards your next extra life, you should be able to get that extra life on these shoot 'em up sections. Well, this shoot 'em up section. Now, the problem with these shmup sections, though, is that it's very easy to run into the walls because I guess the collision detection on the walls just is not that good. It's not that precise. You'll actually bump into the wall when it doesn't even look like you've touched the wall. I mean, that's always been a big pet peeve of mine. You know, bad hitboxes, basically. But the levels themselves, even with that issue, they're not too bad to deal with, to be honest with you. And even if you take a lot of hits like I have been right now, and the boss is going to come out here, just like so. Even if you take a lot of hits, you know, the enemies still don't do that much damage in this, unfortunately. I don't know why I said unfortunately. They fortunately don't do a lot of damage, so it's not too bad to deal with. Yeah, don't mind me if I'm sort of not thinking properly right now. I've actually am doing this Let's Play after doing my Iridian stream on Thursday night, so I'm a little burnt out already, you know, from doing that stream and doing a Let's Play immediately after. But that's what I've been doing lately. Sometimes I've been recording these Let's Plays immediately after the streams, just since I've got everything hooked up, got the mic out. As long as I'm practiced and awake, it works out. So, yeah, this is our last, second to last stage, and then we're on to the final stage in the game. The final stage is actually only three floors, and that's it. It's very quick and easy. Well, easy, I shouldn't say. It's very quick to get through, so it's not going to take that long. So we're pretty much right at the last stretch of the game. So what's interesting about the final boss in this game is that his attacks on the first form are dependent on whether you're standing or you're ducking or you're attacking or things like that. So when we get to the first form of the final boss, basically what I'm going to do is just duck over and over. And it basically baits the boss into ducking, and then I can jump over him, or jump over his projectiles, and then just attack him a few times and just rinse and repeat. So it's kind of an interesting strategy that I didn't know about before, prior to practicing for this Let's Play. So lots of fast-paced enemies here, lots of ninjas falling down from the ceilings, and for some reason, our big head honcho boss here likes clowns, because there are some clowns bouncing around too. It's kind of out of place to me, if you ask me, but whatever. It's a video game, don't question it. It's an 8-bit video game too, especially don't question it. So this is our last stretch here, and so on this part, I actually intentionally take damage. Ooh, that was... Man, that would have been really close to a 1 life clear. So that actually didn't work out how I was anticipating. Normally, I make the jump, and those guys come up, and bam, just like that, they attack me. just like so. I'm not even sure how I got past that. That was the first time that's happened, actually. So very, very interesting there. But generally, if you jump at the right time, you'll just run right into their projectiles like so. And as long as you hit that orange ninja, you get your life back. So basically, tanking your hits is fine. So again, we're going to duck. And just stay ducking. And he will always duck. And just like that. Yeah, so if you don't just duck all the time, it's actually quite difficult to, you know, to get him into like a workable pattern. He can get close to you and use his sword. And so this guy right here, you basically have to use your grenades. And he'll basically slam down to the bottom of the screen and then shoot these 3 wave attacks. You can duck under the first 2 and then jump over the 3rd one. So since your grenades explode, you can actually hit him and let them explode as he sort of goes down into them. So I think the intended strategy is to, you know, hit him when his head is down like this. Oh, we lost our grenades. Wow, we lost all our grenades because of dying. So your grenades will charge back up, but it's really slow. See, that's a problem with dying on that last section. In my practice runs, I didn't die on that last section leading up to the boss fight. So when you die, you lose your power-ups. So that boss fight didn't go as fast as it could have. I was wondering what happened there for a second. I was like, wait, why aren't my grenades coming out? And it was because of that one death. I had missed my jump, apparently, and died. So we didn't get a 1 life clear, which I wasn't really in my intention. I wasn't planning on trying to get a 1 life clear. It's just one of those things where if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then no big deal, right? So, but that's Vice Project Doom, sword only, or about as close to sword only as you can get. Again, on that boss fight, what he does is he slams down, and then he basically ducks his head down. I can't hit him without trading hits. It is possible to actually damage him with the sword, but not without trading hits. And when you touch him, he does a lot of damage. So, basically what would happen is I would hit him, he would do multiple blocks of health, I'd only do 1 block of health, and then he'd kill me before I even got a quarter of his health bar down. So, you pretty much have to use grenades on that if you're going to do this sword only. But it is a fun sword only run. I mean, Vice Project Doom, very much like Ninja Gaiden, is the kind of game where I generally play mostly sword only anyway. Although on boss fights, I would use my projectiles quite a bit, because you can stay back in safety. But even when you're not using your projectiles and whatnot, as long as you know the boss patterns, you can get up in their face and you can just wreck them very, very quickly. Because just like in Ninja Gaiden, your sword comes out very quickly. So you can go bam, 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 and just, you know, 5 hit points are gone off the bosses, or like a quarter of their life bar is gone, and just rinse and repeat. And it's very satisfying in a Ninja Gaiden kind of way. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Vice Project Doom is an awesome game. If you're a real cart collector, it's really gone up in price, so it's not something you're probably going to want to try to track down physically unless you're just one of those types of people that likes to spend a lot of money on their old school retro games. But it is the kind of thing I would definitely recommend playing via emulation or on a flash cart or something like that. It's a fantastic game, especially if you're a big fan of Ninja Gaiden, like I am. And it's just a good game. It's well made. It's fairly polished. You know, there is flicker and stuff like that, which is typical for NES games. Not a ton of slowdown, and it's fairly intense. So if you like a good challenging game, I highly recommend this. And yeah, it's great. It's awesome. So if you guys have any questions or comments, if you've played Vice Project Doom, or if you haven't even played it, feel free to drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. And if you have any questions regarding strategies or the gameplay or techniques or anything like that, feel free to ask as well. So as usual, guys, thanks for watching. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button to subscribe. I've got a lot of Let's Plays on the way, and many, many more to come in the back catalog. For everyone already subbed, thank you for your continued support. Feel free to give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And as usual, guys, until the next one, take it easy.